Welcome to What the Flick, Mad Men, episode 3, because there was two in the first part. Right. Technically episode 3 if you're following along. Don't cross me. The Collaborators. So who would like to begin? Alonso, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, if last week's two-parter was about death, I think this week's is about prostitution in its many forms, from Dick Whitman's childhood in the brothel to the ongoing repercussions of Joan spending the night with the guy from Jaguar.
The disgusting guy from Jaguar.
Exactly.
She had a great line.
To Don giving cash to Sylvia.
Right.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? Well, what was that? Was that like, did that turn her on to get the cash?
It turned her on. It definitely turned him on. You saw he had a great piece of acting from John Hamm. He had a great little smile on his face, like I'm about to give her $100. You know, this is power.
Yeah.
Well, they've established earlier on that this only works for her if she feels dirty about it. So what better way to kind of, you know?
Oh, that's a great point.
Put the icing on that cake.
Establish that?
In the restaurant, the whole thing about how like you only want to do this if you feel shitty about it first.
I wish that line wasn't such a fucking turn on, but it was. We said you want to feel shitty about this right until the point where I take your dress off, and I'm going to do that. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
No, that's funny because Don is. I decided right then that Don is everything I never was. Okay, like he's a really attractive guy.
You decided that 6 seasons in. That's interesting.
Okay, and it's so easy for him, right? And it's like for me, getting laid was so hard. I had to work so hard, and he's this guy of mystery, few words. I've got verbal vomit, and I'm too honest. He's a man of mystery, right? And women are like, oh, and then he says, I'm going to take your clothes off, and they're like, of course you are.
And like, no appetizers. We're in a hurry.
Right. But you know, to Alonso, you were talking about the brothel scenes with the early Dick. What a curious choice for an actor there, right? Because the young kid looks like the biggest dork in the world. How does he grow up to be John Hamm?
Yeah, but he looks like a dork. Yeah, but you still see the beginnings of that could turn into a handsome.
Look, how many people who are gorgeous in high school become like, you know, that's their peak? You know, I think a lot of times it's the ones who are weird looking early on, or who grow into themselves and then become. Yeah,
sure. Okay, I get that. So, what I mainly wanted to ask you guys is, what do you guys think about that whole brothel thing? What does it say about Don? Okay? So obviously, it perverted his sense of sex in some way, right? But was he turned on by the other women? Was he curious or turned on by seeing his mom through the keyhole?
Well,
what was that about?
That was not his mom.
That's the sort of
I backed that up.
Fill-in mom.
Right. I wasn't sure.
His mother died in childbirth, right?
Right.
And
right.
Yeah,
but I wasn't even sure that was the woman who.
No, that was.
That was the woman who brung him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do we think about that?
Well, and I know that he thinks of it more, more than this, but I think it probably establishes his sex as currency.
Yeah, transactional.
Exactly.
Let me just on the theory that I might have accidentally struck on something profound, because I said there that it was that the woman who brung him, and then he has that line later.
You got to dance with the brung you.
About not ditching the Heinz 57 for the ketchup. That you dance with the one that brung you.
Chalk it up as a maybe?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
a strong maybe?
And I think there's definitely something to be said in the scene with the Jaguar execs. You could make the correlation of Don as a whore there in terms of he's giving them exactly what they want, but he's not giving them anything.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. God, that scene was so brilliant.
That's funny. I'm going to let you do this, but I'm not going to enjoy it, just so you know.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So, but what is it about Don? You say it's transactional with the sex, but why is he pathologically an adulterer, or a cheater,
He's a sex addict. He's an alcoholic.
He's a pathological liar.
Yeah.
Why not? You know.
Right.
He's addicted to nicotine. I mean, he's just an addictive dude.
And obviously, as you point out, he has this power over women, and so what's to stop him in 1968, where we are now, or the years leading up to that, from exercising that power over and over and over again,
so
unless he's
really
got some sort of moral compass, which he doesn't.
But isn't that, maybe we've just again accidentally stumbled on the most profound point about Mad Men overall, that the era was an era in which white men like that ruled absolutely, and so there was no brakes in the car.
Right.
So if you were going to drink alcohol, of course you drank it to excess. How else would you drink it? If you were going to cheat on your wife, which of course you were, if you had the ability to, of course you would do it to
let's
excess.
talk about the Campbells.
Right, because it's
Campbell.
one thing to have Don, who clearly would have this power that would make Gina squirm in her chair, and I'm going to take that dress off. But like Pete Campbell, I mean,
he's so gross.
there's not a woman watching this show who wants to fuck Pete Campbell.
God bless Peter Carlin. He's great at
He's
the role,
great.
but he is so disgusting.
Right, he's so good at it, but yet, even that era that sideburned Pete Campbell, 1968 Pete Campbell.
It don't come easy.
Right, no, but it does. I mean, he's taught, all he did, they have a couple women over from the neighborhood, and 2 women are like, what do I have to do to come
I'd
into
love
New
to
York
see
to sleep?
hair.
Yeah, it's like a key party's going to break out at any moment.
Right,
you
so
know.
why is that? What is it about him or
I think
that
goes to
hero
what
or
you're
that
saying,
combination?
that's just sort of that, you know, that if you had power then, and you know how to use it in any way, even if you're morally and physically repulsive, which Pete is in many ways, that you can work it, that it'll work.
But I think that why those women? Because they're suburban,
Right.
sheltered
They're bored.
women, and here's this, this
Glamorous
guy.
big city guy.
He's got a pad in the city,
he has
they're
an
on the pill,
apartment.
why not,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Now, I want to point out one thing. The people on this show are terrible adulterers, and I don't mean they're terrible because they're adulterers. I mean they're
They're
terrible
bad at
at
it.
being adulterers. Like Pete Campbell is totally shitting where he eats,
Yep.
which is you never do. And then Sylvia and Megan are becoming all tight and sharing all this intimate information. I'm thinking this is so going to blow up in their face because eventually Megan's going to figure out they're fucking. Eventually Dr. Rosen's going to figure out they're fucking, and they become all buddy in the meantime.
Dr. Rosen's going to get to the hospital one time, they're going to be like, the guy died.
Yeah, and he's going to turn around.
He's going to go home.
Which is one thing, but then they're all becoming so chummy that it just means it's going to be that much more painful when it
took
comes out.
Trudy 3 minutes to figure it out, so
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
So what do we think? Did the girl tell Trudy?
Yes.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
And
She's a
Trudy obviously
moron.
knew a lot already, given that she knew
That's
that the
why-
How about
child was
that? How about
possessed.
that very telling line of that we've learned that over the last 5 years of their marriage, Trudy has said, "I don't care if you sleep with somebody, but be discreet about it."
Yeah,
Right.
that's why
Like
she had the apartment.
Right, like she didn't care.
Yeah, so
there are
Trudy's
rules.
smart. She
Yeah.
was no dummy. Like, she knew all of Pete's lies. She's like, okay, yes, I know you need a place to relax.
And so, what is she
Fine.
saying now? Is her message to him, "We're getting divorced," or no?
Well, when she
No.
says, "I will destroy you," what does that mean?
Well, her father, don't forget, is
Yes.
Vix. You know,
Right.
so she has she holds a certain amount of cards. No, what she's saying is that you're not getting a divorce from me, but you are not coming into this house until I say you can.
Right.
So I'm gonna
she
keep the
is.
kid
Yeah,
from you.
I'm keeping the cards. I'm keeping the power. I'm going to be Mrs. Pete Campbell, but you can fuck right off.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
so
what she's saying.
that's interesting because it goes to the transitional point of this series, right? Like, meaning like of the time period. Men had all the power. They did whatever they did.
Right.
And now we're at a situation, obviously, in present day America. Well, that's not the case, right? It's a lot more complicated than that. And we're right in that transition period at the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s, where in the old days, Pete Campbell would have been like, yeah, I'm having sex with everybody, and you're going to take it, and,
Exactly.
and you're going to shut up about it.
Yeah.
But now women do hold some power, and they're beginning to exercise that.
Which brings us to Peggy Olson.
Right.
And you know,
Your battle axe.
there is nothing like the go-to for lazy sexists than the menstrual cramp humor.
Right.
You know,
right,
like
right.
let's go right to the bleeding vagina. That is the if I got nothing else, you know, that's my ace.
Yeah.
And so so the men under her are feeling oppressed, and so they leave feminine powder on her desk.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a good one. Yeah.
She had that great line about they're never funny when you need them to be.
Right, that was
Exactly.
great. And then that guy turns out to be incredibly oily.
But we knew he was going to be oily, right?
He's an ad man.
Yeah. Right. It doesn't turn out to be. Right. Of course. we
And,
knew
and
this
here's the thing: in real life, I have been in that situation where you tell a confidence to someone thinking that it's a friendly conversation, and then it turns out that there was there. We may be friends, but you are also in your own business, and you're going to run with it.
Yeah.
So,
But I was split on that anyway, as to the fact is, if they took the meeting, then Ketchup is looking, and they're going to find out eventually, is it really some horrible violation if they go after Ketchup? I think you're going to say no.
Yeah, look, I get that violating that guy's trust is bad, and I'm not sure you need Peggy to be the one person running after that. I might have given it to somebody
give it to
else in the
somebody else, right,
agency, and I might have told Peggy, hey, listen, look, it sounds like a bad situation, but the reality is there was 38 different ways we could have found out. We just like the guy said, we just found out a little early.
and
Don't feel bad
it sounds
about
like Don wasn't going to let Sterling Cooper go after Ketchup anyway.
Right. Right, which is that great because there is that. You talked about the Don having sort of no moral compass.
Well, okay, maybe that was
but it's
overstating the case.
Right, no, but I mean, but
But
there
he
it
has
is.
his
I mean, he
own
doesn't.
moral.
I agree with you, but then he's got this. He does
He has
in
his
some
own moral
right.
compass.
Yeah, some
it's
things.
different. It's
agree,
different than
yes.
you know the ones we would have.
Sure.
But everybody's got their own internal rules, right? And Don has his rules.
Right.
And so, you know, two quick things. One on the lady that he's having the affair with. I instantly, and Gina, I'm very curious what you thought about this. I instantly hated her when she judged his
Meghan.
wife,
Oh,
Megan, right?
yeah.
And but that was compounded when we found out through the dinner more definitively that what turns her on is being dirty. So you love being dirty, and
Yeah.
when someone else is slightly immoral, and then you're going to judge her.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she wasn't just judging the morality of it. She was struck by the degree of her jealousy of learning. I think of this intimate moments between Don and Meghan.
Right,
Too.
right.
That
Yeah.
also was a.
But,
That's
but,
gonna
but,
blow
but you
up.
look at like the politicians and the sort of moral watchdogs who make the loudest hue and cry are the ones that always get caught in the seamiest sex scandals possibly.
Absolutely.
Like they're not just having an affair; they're like hiring underage prostitutes, and making them
true.
dress like Winnie the Pooh or something. I
Right.
mean, there's something weird going
just
on.
fuck your secretary.
Exactly.
Right.
Get it over
So
with.
that's weird these days.
It's nice, I heard.
They're called otherkins, but that's a whole other conversation. But I love, one thing I couldn't stop laughing at and smiling at is when Don is so perplexed as to what the hell is Sylvia doing here, and it is all over his face.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
thought, he has built up such credibility as a weird dude that you staring at a woman doesn't ring any bells with Meghan, doesn't freak anyone out because he's so weird always that he can do this. And nobody bats an eyelash.
That's the amazing thing about Don as a character, right? Because he's so weird, and at the same time, he's so powerful
Yeah.
that he makes everyone accept his weirdness as the norm.
He's like
Do you
the
see what
Larry
I'm saying?
David of Mad Men.
Right, like that you think
Right.
well, if he does it, I guess that's the right
People
thing
wanna
to
be
do.
Right, you have to-
I
Yeah,
must be
exactly.
weird for not reacting
You have
that
to.
way.
Everybody exists in Don Draper's world. Yeah.
One thing real quick that I forgot to bring up last week, and he's sneaking up on us, and I want to see where this is going. Bob Benson.
Yeah, totally, definitely.
What's up with that guy?
I don't know if this is the show kind of showing us planting the seed of these are the guys who would later become the masters of the universe and destroy the market over and over again, or this is the guy who's going to somehow.
'cause he's a Wall Street guy.
He's a Wall Street guy, but
such
he's
a kiss-ass.
such an Eve Harrington. Like there's something going on where he is out to usurp somebody.
Right, he's buying Pete Campbell toilet paper
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
him.
And, yeah,
right.
on him.
Yeah, that's true. We should obviously we're supposed to pay attention
With the
to
deli
Bob Benson.
tray, I mean, there's something up with
That's
this.
I love how that we're not. First of all, we got our first glimpse of history working itself into the show, which
the
is
Tet
we're in
Offensive.
1968 with the Tet Offensive. Don's not paying attention to it, but Dr. Rosen recognizes. Hey,
It's not the first glimpse. They've been
no, this season. I'm just saying
Oh,
of 1968
yeah.
being.
Although the ears, I think, last week.
Right, the ears, yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit. But I mean, we got the Tet Offensive, that we're losing the war. Obviously, Vietnam's going to be a big deal this year, as will be the assassination of Dr. King, as will be the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. But they referenced the Pueblo when North Korea. So I did a little Pueblo research, which, as everyone knows, means you look up Pueblo on Wikipedia. And but here's what's interesting about the Pueblo. The North Koreans took a U.S. ship and held the crew for nearly a year, and then sent the crew home. They still have the ship. It's a museum, the Pueblo, and the Pueblo is still commissioned by the U.S. Navy. We haven't decommissioned it because we don't have it back, and it's the only commissioned U.S. Navy vessel that's in enemy hands.
Wow, that's Kim
Thank
Jong
you.
unbelievable.
That's King John. There you go.
So
It's good that you can bring it back.
Spend the rest of the show down here.
okay. So I wanted to bring out one of the taboos here. What's
Oh,
interesting?
I'm sorry. Let me just finish on one thing because it's not. Because I want to make sure we get it. But I love that. So it's 1968.
Right.
But the only change they made, so basically Pete and Don look the same, except Pete's got the sideburns, but Don has done
Nothing.
Yeah.
nothing. He dressed exactly this way with a newer suit, but it's not even that different when the show started in
And
1959.
he will wear that until he dies.
Right,
He'll
he's
be
not
buried in that,
like
yeah.
that's him. So that's Don, and that puts Don at less odds than Pete going forward to succeeding. I mean, like this, the world is changing around him, and Don is. We got two glimpses. One, I think the hair and the suit being exactly the same, and he goes, "I didn't pay attention to what happened today." Like he's missing
Yeah.
these changes that are happening in the world, and I presume missing this sort of growth of power of women, which of course in many ways he'll love.
And thank God for that, because I was talking about, and they have to do it. It's not their fault. But when the show started, it was in the 50s. There was a magic around it, and I was like, oh no! Now that it's in the 60s, is it losing its magic? But Don digs his heels in, and he's still this little lecherous guy with the perfect suit and the thin tie, and I feel better about it.
I am loving Harry Crane's look, though. It's hilarious,
you can't see him in
but
there.
I love it.
You can't even find him in there.
The funny thing is, if they keep going, they're going to catch up to my dad. Okay, because like my dad, when I was growing up in the 1970s, sideburns, the suit,
Right.
The Lego hair.
Well, there's one more season. I think they're ending it in '69, right? They're not. I think they've said they're not going into the '70s.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we are now born though in the chronology of this show, so that's exciting.
Right. We've made it.
We haven't been born.
No.
Yet. Okay, but I got to be honest. I thought Mad Men was getting boring. To be honest, like when they said 2 hours season premiere, I was like, oh no. Okay, like I thought 2 hours is too long, right? But now we're back. Okay, and the reason we're back is Vims. Okay, they brought sex back in, and they brought a little bit of mystery back in. Vims obviously
Remind us what Vims is.
Yes, for the non-Game of Thrones people.
Violence, intrigue, mystery, sex. That's the 4 things you need. They don't have violence really.
Well,
they don't have much intrigue. They have a little intrigue.
They cut off Henry Francis's hand at the end, which I thought was. Why did you cut my hand off?
Because they couldn't sell Jaguar.
So, and they have a little intrigue with beans versus ketchup, but right.
That's the most neutered sentence I've ever heard in my life.
But you've got to give me a mystery, like what's going to happen with Don's marriage, what's going to happen with Pete, and at least they brought sex back, and I'm like, okay, thank God.
I don't buy your dismissiveness of beans versus ketchup because I love that. I don't think the intrigue needs to be who is going to take the Iron Throne. I think the intrigue can be beans versus ketchup, and I love the idea that we can presume is probably true that at Heinz. They don't even have the same advertising. The beans guys don't even.
They don't.
It's totally separate. Like that to me, that's fascinating. And I, like you, was positive, and I wrote it down that the ketchup guy in the office for that fake meeting, as it turned out, I thought it was Daniel Tosh.
Yeah, I did. And I paused, I rewound a little bit, and it took me like 13 and a half seconds, and then I was like,
I said, oh my God, it's Daniel Tosh.
That's what I thought in the beginning. I said, I went through. Is it Daniel Tosh? It is Daniel Tosh. So 13 and a half seconds later, it's not Daniel Tosh.
I knew the face, and I was like, it's the Loggerheads guy, which is this indie that nobody remembers. And then Dave finally pipes up, it's Kip Pardue. Yes, okay, Kip Pardue.
Yeah, and he's familiar, but man, he looked like Daniel. It looks like how Daniel Tosh would look if he were in Mad Men.
Can I just say one thing in sort of an advice column type way when Megan tells Don about the miscarriage and all this? I don't know one woman, and I know some cuckoo women. I don't know one woman who would be happy when she said, "Well, what do you want?" He's like, "Whatever you want."
Right.
What? What was that?
Again, it's 1968.
Right.
I think that sounds better
I have a
than.
different theory on that. She doesn't want the kids, right?
No, absolutely.
Right, but so Don can't say I don't want kids because he thinks she
grateful.
wants kids because she's young.
Right.
So when Don is non-committal, she's like, "Oh, thanks God."
She was grateful that he let him. That he let her out of the conversation.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I needed that explained because that was not.
And if I can circle back around to the prostitution theme one last time, there is an interesting ongoing weirdness between Don and Joan about what she did
they've never spoken of the two of them.
They don't talk about it. He is still clearly, I think, a little bristly about it, and I think that ties into the childhood memories and the bordello stuff. I think that he had sort of that's put her in a different category in his mind, and he's still wrapping his head around that she did that.
I think that he respected Joan, and he put her in the same category as he puts. Is it Betty?
Yeah.
Right?
No, Peggy.
I'm sorry, Peggy. Of women I don't sleep with, and that I respect.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and so when she slept with him as a transactional thing, to go back to your point, Alonso, then he lost some respect for her, and he feels terrible about it. I think that's what's leading to that uncomfortable
But he's still sort
dynamic.
of defending her.
Oh yeah, he's clearly out to fuck over the Jaguar guy in revenge for that.
Right.
But at the same time, I think you still get the impression he's sort of silently judging her whether he means to be or not.
Do you think they'll ever fuck?
I hope so.
Well, I think that's part of Vim's. That's one of the big mysteries
That's
of
a
Mad
Vim.
Men.
That's a Vim.
It's a Vim. Will those two ever have sex?
I don't think they will because
don't
I think
think so.
they're too
hope
much
not.
peers in
Yeah,
a way. You know.
they have. I love to see this. I mean, she is
It might
the
actually
ultimate.
be. It might actually be bad.
Well, and that's
like
that's
awkward,
how,
right?
That's
yeah.
exactly. She is the ultimate sex symbol. She's amazing. She's voluptuous. She's perfect. And Don's like, you know what? I'm not going to go there. And I love that idea that the ultimate Don conquest, he's not interested in touching.
Well, and also I think granted his sleeping with Megan when she was a secretary. To the contrary, unlike Pete, he's been very smart about sleeping with women that are not part of his regular world, that are where it's going to bite him in the ass when it inevitably ends, which it always does.
Except as you said, now a part of his world. Now,
That's
now
true.
the Dr. Rosen is part of his world.
Right. Yeah.
Poor
No, that's true. That he's making a big
Dr.
mistake
Rosen.
here.
Part of what Don is he wants to punish himself.
Yeah.
Because of what happened in the war, because of who is in insecurity, he wants to get caught eventually, and he wants to abuse alcohol.
And get over
This is
it.
obvious, and I guess you guys have already thought it, maybe, but right, that's a fair point. But you know, I mean, in a sense, that Joan prostituting herself for that job in Don's eyes was the worst possible thing she could have done to him. Like to this woman he respected, and now going back, and we're seeing it happen, as you mentioned at the beginning, we're seeing it happen in this episode where we see just how confronted with the world of horrors Don was as a kid.
That puts her in that category.
It puts her in that category.
And to
also,
combine your 2 points, she's kind of like the female Don.
Yeah.
And so for her to have made it transactional and to be as dirty as he is, I think that he felt a little crushed by that.
Yeah.
And he's got that anger over it, and he's trying to take it out on the Jaguar guy, etc.
All right, successful episode. They'll be so pleased that we thought so.